I'm at Haslemere Motorcycles again, and we have a treat special today, a GSX-R1000. Second gear, 6,500 RPM. I've done an unboxing video of this bike, or uncrating video, which has gone very well. But today, I get to ride it. Oh my god, this is going to be interesting. I am 6'4", and this bike is... Notice that? One press and it starts. It's this easy start thing they've come up with. I do feel very much like a monkey on a circus bike. This is one of the most leant over bikes I have ever ridden. As I say, that is just literally down to my height, and this is why I don't really ride sports bikes too much. There we go. If I've sat further back, I'm even more leant over, but at least I feel a bit more like I'm on the bike. The first thing I'll note, and I'm really impressed with actually, is how smooth the throttle is. You know, a lot of these bikes can be quite jerky, but it's not. It's really not. This has got quite a bit of electronic gadgetry on it, in the sense of, you know, traction control and motion detecting, braking, and oh god, all sorts. I'm not going to go into that too much, but the things that they've added, which are supposed to be sort of good for your for normal riding, is they've got a low RPM assist, which basically means that it's just a bit easier to ride it at lower RPMs. I assume that just makes the throttle less sensitive low down. Clutch is so light, but does feel predictable. Like it doesn't feel too light. That's a good thing. This is the exact reason why I prefer a 600. You know, I love being able to use the engine more. I feel very much like I'm holding right back the whole time. But for some people, that's what they want. A lot of people love when you're just not using what the potential of the bike is. Let's remember, my reviews are more about your everyday man. What is the bike like for an everyday rider? Well, I'm putting in 6. I am doing 70 miles an hour. It's at 4,500 RPM, and it's comfy, but in the sense that it's comfortable doing it. I'm not massively comfortable riding it. Of course, then the question is, well, okay, do I have to keep changing down a gear if I want to do some overtakes, or has it got the torque to just get on with it? Oh yeah, it's got the torque. Alright, second gear, 6,500 RPM. I thought I'd come down this way and go on some country roads, you know. Let's have a listen, let's have a listen. Sounds pretty good. This has got a Yoshi exhaust on it, but it's not excessively loud when you're riding it normally. It just isn't. Now, if you live in an area a bit like me, you have lovely country roads like this, and there's plenty of brilliant bike roads where people will go a little bit quicker. However, there are sections like this where you do 30, and it is not unreasonable to ask someone to do that. But is it unreasonable of this bike to ask it to do 30? Because for a lot of the big CC engine bikes, it kind of fall on their face in these situations because they're just not made to do it. It's got very firm steering, but you just get that from the geometry of these sorts of bikes. But it feels light. It does not feel like a heavy bike at all. It's got good steering. It's very intuitive. You know, you feel quite one with it quite quickly. Some bikes you kind of have to find your way with it, but this feels very natural. Definitely impressed by the throttle on this. The smoothness of it is noticeably better than the old 1000 that I rode. That did have a little bit of lunge, not a lot, not as much as a lot of people went on about. You know, once you've taken a bit of take up at the beginning up, it's fine, but this is definitely noticeably smoother. They obviously took what people were saying about the old one on board and made some changes. I happen to know this road is hideously bumpy. And the texture is horrible, so how's the suspension on this cope with it? Because, yeah, I mean, I can feel the texture, yeah, really feel the texture. But, I mean, it's a firm ride, but it's not jarred me at all yet, although I may not have found any big bumps. No, there was one that was bumpy-ish. Brakes are very strong. There isn't a huge amount of feel though. I mean, there is once it starts braking and they really start working, it takes very little force. But it's just that very first bit. There's nothing really going on, and it's starting to come in. Yeah. Well, let's try some manoeuvring at slower speeds. Yeah, it has the turning. That's full lock. That is full lock. It has the turning circle of a barge, which is common in these sorts of bikes. If for you bikes are about having more speed and power than you can possibly use on the road, this falls into that category fully. It's a little bit nuts. For me, I'm not a fast rider. The ride is really nice. The suspension is, you know, normally it's going to be pretty hard and pretty jarring, but it seems to be firm and sporty, but not too bad on the bumps. I need to stop somewhere and give this bike a good look over, because it is quite a lot cheaper than the alternatives out there, and I wonder if that will show in the build. That surge of power though, it is addictive. It's been so long since I rode the RR, I can't really remember, but I've got a feeling this just does feel a little bit quicker. The RR seemed to have to build up more before it really went on. This is just going at any point. It's just wherever it is in the range, it's got the power. I cannot get over how smooth this thing is. I know I keep saying this, but it's so smooth. So there she is. Now obviously this exhaust is not stock. This is a Yoshimura exhaust which has been put on by Haslemere Motorcycles, because the standard one, which you have seen in that video, here's a clip. Yeah, they're massive. But then Funny enough, I'd say actually, everyone's been going on about how massive that exhaust was. I've seen bigger exhausts on Suzukis before now, but it is Euro 4, so they have to make a lot of concessions for that. Now, as I say, this bike is a lot cheaper than a lot of other competitive bikes, so have they cheaped out anywhere? Does anything look a bit cheap and nasty or anything like that? And the answer's not really. The classic thing that I've noticed Suzuki do over the years is the things like the levers and the rear sets and the exhaust and stuff. That's all the cheap bits. They know you're going to change yourself, so they put cheaper versions on. But you know, these feel like nice levers, very solid. Foot pegs seem very nicely made. I mean, they look very much like the other ones. I think the black coating is making them look a lot better than when they're silver. But I think they are the stock ones. But, you know, as I say, adequate. But, you know, people like putting fancier bits on. Very large, nice toe-wide rear brake. This here is horrible in every single sense of the word. I mean, it's even square. But again, that's something that they know that you're gonna have that off. And I bet you that is really easy to remove. Well, I can see the ends. Well, maybe it's easy to remove. Here's your toolkit. So as long as it's an Allen, you're all good. That is your pillion seat. Yeah. You can't have a lot of junk in your trunk if you're going to be sitting on that. Looks-wise, it looks nice. I think it's a good shaped bike. My only criticism, though, on the looks is that they just haven't changed much. And you look over the years, and they haven't really changed the looks of these chicks as much. It feels very much like, you know, Porsches that don't really change, but they do change. And maybe that's a good thing, because people just love the shape and the design of these things. But for me, I like to have something that stands out a bit. Like, you can be like, oh, that's the 2017. Not like, oh, that's the 2015, 14, 13. Somewhere around there, you know. But it looks good. It definitely looks good. Let's have a look at the controls. It's all pretty much standard fare for bikes like this. Obviously, you've got your low beam and high beam and your pass light all in one. I do like that design. Mode and your selection buttons for the menus, which we'll get to in a minute. Indicators. Nice little indicators. I like that. I know it's only a small thing, but it feels nice to your finger, and it's got a satisfying click off. When things have a satisfying click off, you want to click them off, and then you don't leave your indicator on. Horn, which we'll get to in a minute. This is where things get a little bit weird. The start is here, and what would normally be the start is the hazard down here. I don't know why hazard lights needs to be primary A1 position there. But it's not the end of the world, is it? It's not a negative as such, it's just a bit weird. So let's turn it on. Nice looking display. I do like these new bikes that are basically having little TV screens. It's not as flashy looking as like the R1 or anything like that. This is blue backlit as I understand it. But anyway, there's a lot going on this screen. Possibly there's a lot of numbers there. We'll have to click through a few. So anyway, so you've got your revs up and across here. Temperature of the bike here. Fuel here. Time, air temperature, gear position, speed. This is your traction control levels. This goes from, 1 to 10? Let's have a look. Hang on. You press that one, and then you can go... Yeah, 10 is basically snow mode, and even if you want to pull away quickly, you can't. It won't let you. Maybe we'll do that later on. 10? Watch this. It won't let you go! It's so restrictive! Look, wait for the light to come on. That's utterly ridiculous. That comes in way too soon. What is it for? Snow? Who's riding this bike in snow? Sounds like a machine gun. Bizarre. Right, let's get out of that. Oh, when they've got traction control off. No, I'll put it to 3. Call me a wimp, I don't care, it's not my bike. Okay, so then you click down and we've got, I think that's miles remaining probably. Trip, average MPG, which is 44.1 MPG, and I have been a little bit vigorous with it, so, you know, total miles is done 325 miles. Trip B, battery voltage indicator, that's a good thing. Brightness, I assume for the LCD. Anything else the other way? There we go, MPG. But yeah, there's a lot of information there, and I do find this corner to be very messy. I'd prefer it to be a little bit more straightforward, but it's not a big criticism, because the bits you need to see, you can see. And let's face it, on this bike, if you're looking at that, it's a bad idea. You need to be looking that way, because this thing is quick. And then we appear to have immobiliser light, some sort of engine warning light, neutral light, ABS light, traction control light, oil light of some sort. There is a frost indicator, which I assume tells you when it's cold temperature or something. And if you're in high beam. As I say, the controls do feel nice. Yes, this clutch lever is showing its cheaperness, but it's perfectly adequate, as they always are. And as I say, most people are going to want to replace these giant levers with smaller levers, but man, there's a lot of grip, a lot of grasp of your brakes on there. You really don't need it on this bike. I am only 2-finger braking, and it's just like pulls your face off. It's a perky little horn. Now, this is one of the things this has got, which is called Easy Start, which basically means when you start it, instead of pressing and holding this button, you can just press it. And unlike the Suzukis of old, you don't have to hold the clutch in. Is that really a selling feature? I'm not sure, but I suppose you don't hold your finger on the button for an extra half a millis, I don't know. Turning circle, as previously mentioned, not big. Oh, it has got a damper built in. Is that adjustable? I don't know. Yeah, this is definitely in the territory of barge. Okay, is there anything about this bike that I don't like? Think about it. Well, the seating position's not particularly comfortable for me. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I've relaxed into it, and I feel alright. My wrists aren't hurting anymore. I feel good. However, that's because I'm really tall, so I can't really judge that. Looks, I think they could have developed them a little bit more, but then I do understand that with looks on a bike, it's very risky. If you change things radically, you know, some people just absolutely hate it. By staying close to what they've done in the past and only just tuning it slightly, you know, it keeps it in line with what's been popular before. It's too quick, but that's just a personal thing. I'm not saying it's too quick and no fast bikes, as I say. It's about what's actually usable on the road, and I don't feel you can really use this on the road sensibly. It's fast as hell. But that is true to say of every 1000cc bike I've ridden. They're a bit excessive for the road, but as I say, if that's something you want, then you're not going to be disappointed. What is interesting, and not something I've sort of seen too much about Suzuki in the past few years, is, you know, if you put this up against like the R1 and the 1000RR from BMW, before now people always are saying, oh, it's the R1, it's the BMW. I've seen a lot of people saying, I really like that Suzuki. That's something special, that thing. I do think Suzuki nailed this one. I don't think there's really a lot more I can add to this. As I say, it's a fine bike, it's made nicely, it's cheaper than some of the alternatives, it's stupidly quick, it is smooth, the ride is nice. Let's have a little go on these brakes without trying too much. Jeez. They are good brakes. And the force on your fingers is like, nah. It feels electric. It doesn't feel like you're actually putting that pressure on. Which, yeah, it does mean the feel's a little bit off. And I'm also not entirely keen with that much movement before they start doing anything, really. But there's nothing going on there. And that's something I've called on other bikes before now. Well, there we go. This is quite a machine. Quite spectacular. Definitely worth a try if this is the sort of bike you're after. because if this is the sort of bike you're looking at, then you're definitely only going to have a few to choose from. And of course, let's not forget that the R is coming out soon. There we go. Thank you very much to Haslemere Motorcycles. Apologies that it's absolutely splattered and flies now, but that is quite a machine. Definitely one to be considered. Thank you very much for watching. There is an entire playlist of bike reviews that I've done, and I'll have more coming soon, so please subscribe to the channel to see more.